This is like a piece of cloth, I'm assuming.
Oh, the cloth.
What's the cloth?
The American flag.
Interesting. It's a talit. You know what we
Oh.
Fair shawl?
It's a tallis.
Oh, yeah.
But he has the philosopher. Yeah.
Why is his hands up?
Do you know what this is? No.
Is that it?
No. Do you know what this is?
No.
Tefillin. So men in Orthodox synagogues, like where Papa Allen goes, not on Shabbat, but during the week, they wrap. But where's the box on his head?
Can't really make it out in the photograph.
Yeah.
And it may not be there. Now, the photograph to me is astonishing for several reasons. For one thing, it looks like he's lying on his back.
Yeah.
He's outdoors with a prayer shawl on. His arms are up like he's in surrender. Think of like, people surrendering like in a movie scene or something.
What's this? This is
barbed
the
wire.
Barbed wire.
So it looks to me as if
Wait, barbed
as
wire.
if he was about to be killed, he's about to be shot. The fact that he's looking at whoever took the photograph was also like just astonishing.
This is very
to me.
Rabbi Akiva-like. I mean, this is like somebody who is going to go down in the moment of, like I'm going down as a Jew. Take me any way you want. This is where I'm going.
Where do you want the voice?
Over here.
Wow.
Okay, maybe get closer to the drawing and tell me what you think of the different...
Can they stand on this?
Yeah, because, that's where I would stand when I was working on the drawing. So, what do you like about this drawing?
Sorry, you want to take off your hat?
Or what don't you like?
There's all the like little designs.
Shaibu, please
I
take
like
off your
the
hat.
color.
Do you want his hat off? Or do
It's
you
up
not?
to him. I don't care.
Okay. Akiva doesn't care, but he's so cute.
No, take it off.
Softa cares. Take it off.
I like all the little designs.
Yeah?
Like, and the color. Yeah.
And the color? Anyone in particular? What have I got going on there more than anything else?
Well, the person.
The what?
The person.
Person. Ah, him. What about little things?
Well, there's like a lot of Jewish stuff.
Yeah.
There's that.
Wait, I don't think we should we touch it or not?
Yeah, don't.
No touching.
Sorry.
But say what the objects are, not that.
Okay.
What are the
There's
objects?
I think
a piece of, I think. Right there.
A piece of.
Yeah. Oh, one of those.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
I think aside from Hebrew letters, the image I have the most of is birds. I haven't counted them all. Let's see, how many do we see here?
1, 2, 3, 4. Four.
Could be.
Is that one in there?
I see 4.
Oh no, I see 5,
1.
6, 7.
Oh, 8.
8.
Is there one up there?
I don't think so.
No.
What's that?
That's a man.
No. No. What do you think? Another guess.
It's, I don't know. Wait, that?
Yeah.
A golem? No.
Well, it's on a Polish Jewish gravestone. It was like a lion, but it kind of got, gets abstracted. Kind of like. You
Yeah,
can tell
that
one
one.
is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I can see it with the mane.
Yeah.
And this was actually, I took a photograph of one of my. I used to have parakeets for years. That was my favorite parakeet. Lives in Magnolia now. So what do you guys think?
It's really cool.
Is that Yiddish?
No, it's all... Well, actually, it could be, because the writing I all took from this book, Timeless Stones of Polish Jewish Gravestones.
I think it's Yiddish, because just the way that the double Yud is there.
So what do? You pour over something and then an idea comes to you? How does the process work for you? Or do you have something in mind and then you research and look at?
Oh my God!
How does it work for me?
This says Haknasat, right? Welcome. Does it say Orchim anywhere else?
I can read Siddur Hebrew with vowels.
What about
anything.
here?
I'm just like.
I don't know what it means either.
Haknasat would be
That's how
like
I
to
am.
welcome.
Sure.
Great, you're on camera.
Oh, I'm Noah Sarkowski. I'm in 6th grade. I go to SAS.
How old are you?
I'm 12.
And what do you think of these artworks behind you?
What do I think of them?
Yeah.
I think they're very interesting. I don't think I've seen stuff quite like it. I like this part up here the best of all of it.
What do you think's going on? I didn't tell you anything about this drawing at all. What's happening in this drawing, do you think?
I think it's a man trying to escape from the Nazis.
And
totally far off?
not too far off.
Oh.
So tell me, look at it closely now, and
Okay.
tell me, tell me what you, aside from all the detail in the color areas, what do you see just superficially? What's happening?
A menorah? Oh, like what's happening?
Yeah,
It
like,
looks like he's either diving out like this or he's diving in.
okay, and what's going on with his arm?
He has to fill it on.
Ah, okay, very good. And
It looks like he has to keep up here.
uh-huh. And you said you think he's diving out, in, under,
Yeah,
something like that?
around.
That's good. That's good. He's actually, from the photograph it was drawn, and he was looks like he's lying on his back under barbed wire outside.
Really?
Yeah. So what's unusual about the photograph is, for one thing, he's outside. He has a talit on, the tallis, the prayer shawl, which you see on the right there, abstracted, and the tefillin on, and he's under two strands of barbed wire. I didn't draw the bottom one was here. It's not really drawn yet. And the other one's that's the upper one. So what do you think of this work in terms of what you've heard about the Under the Wings of God series?
What do you mean, what do I think of it?
What do you think of it? Whatever comes to mind.
And this was just out on the street.
Well, it was happening during, he was in a ghetto in a particular city in Poland, and they were murdering Jews.
I'm kind of thinking that this was more or less his death wish. I don't think this was...
What do you mean his death wish?
I think more or less he wanted to die while he was praying to God, and not die while he was sleeping, or eating, or, yeah.
In the photograph, his eyes look open. He's looking at whoever took the photograph. But I like what you said about that he was... Say that again about what was his relationship with God, do you think, at this time?
He wanted to be praying when he was dying, and not to be eating, drinking, doing something.
Not to be eating, drinking. Okay, good. Thank you, Noah.
You're very welcome.
So, my question again is, I was asking about the line across the chin of that man, and you said it's barbed wire, and I was just saying it was not easy for me to tell that it was barbed wire.
Right.
I don't know actually how important that is to you, except that it cuts a line right across his lips.
Right, and there'll be another one down here. So I think you asked if this is going to extend out over here and here.
I wondered.
So my idea for this piece right now is to notice this kind of rectilinear shape I've made, going around like that.
Yes.
Then I'll actually continue over here.
Sure.
And then down here like this. What I was thinking of doing is cutting this out, making it into a shaped piece. The same way. Why don't you turn that over to the young man with Sarah David?
Oh, of course.
I don't know. Yeah, and see how that's shaped. Anyway, Monday, April 4th.
I just think it's very unique, and it's really interesting to see it in progress as opposed to the finished product also.
I see.
Oh, Steve. Yeah, I can't wait to see it when it's done. I love all of your work, and I know this will be as fabulous as all the rest. And I'm already anticipating a serious backache when I have to haul it down to get it.
That's great. Now, anything else?
I want to see it when it's done. I think it looks great.
Thanks. Can we have like a unison kind of wave from both of you? Left. Oh, that's great. That's great. Safety first. Steve Ouch, famed children's book illustrator and author, just came over to see the progress of the mosaic. The last time he was here, he had helped me mount the drawing paper on the board of the drawing. It was rectangular at the time. This is probably last November or thereabouts.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's come along a great deal, Akiva, and I think it's brilliant. So far, my favorite is actually probably the shawl underneath the barbed wire. which is cool.
The shawl underneath the barbed wire.
I mean, the drawing is one of my favorite parts, but the...
You like the shawl sections over here and here.
Beautiful. Yeah. The flow is nice, how it runs across.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
You're
for
hired.
showing me.
Yeah. Last section here is on the lower left as you're facing it. Can you tell me what that is?
Well, you already told me. This
What?
is a design, a bird design.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. I thought you were saying this was also part of the talus.
No, it isn't.
Okay, but it's also a bird design. It's a large bird. It's not a parrot. The beak is wrong.
No, it's not a parrot.
No.
But you got the bird part.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. That one's really apparent.
So
It
it's
took me a
based
minute
on...
to make sure I saw it.
That's the photo it's based on.
Oh.
It's a Muscovy duck.
Wow.
Which,
really?
from about 4 or 5 photographs I took of this duck and its duckling kids in West Palm Beach about 5 years ago.
A Muscovy duck?
Yeah.
Wonderfully done, my gosh. I need to bring my friend Deborah Jarvis down here. I've told you about her before. She's also...
You're on camera, by the way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She is also a mosaic artist.
Oh, really?
She's created some quite wonderful
I'd
things.
be
Yes.
curious.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
she
know
would
any.
love to see your work.
Huh.
I need to do this.
Uh-huh.
I will do this.
Anything else for the closing part 3 here of the...
Wow.
I don't know what I'm going to put down on the bottom over here, and most especially over here yet.
Yeah.
This is a really tough section because it's so small.
Yeah.
I'd originally thought like of a Torah crown or something would be great, but it's so small.
It would be a very restricted crown, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends on how detailed I want to go. I can get fairly small in my tilation, if that's such a word.
It is now.
I found something last night which I've been going to Goodwill and Salvation Army like a couple of times a week for like 2 months now, and this is like a holy miracle. It's hard to find gold colored plates, bowls, or anything, and so this is great.
Wow! Are you going to break it into pieces?
Yeah, it's gonna look like this stuff here.
Yeah. Oh, it's
anyway,
I'm
just signing off. It might be before we get too long for me to upload this.
Okay. This soon will be
looks good.
Tiny pieces.
I work with a project of the Homeless Remembrance Project, and we on the one hand we're standing for people who died while homeless, and we want to remind the world how grim and terrible and awful and this should never happen, that people are dying on the street. And at the same time, in doing this, we try to make a beautiful we make a beautiful memorial. We're going to make a beautiful work of art in Victor Steinberg Park and beautiful leaves of remembrance on the sidewalks. So you want, when you want to honor somebody's life and death and say this was an important person that should not have been thrown away, you talk about the horror, but you also surround it with beauty and beauty. And then on another level, the line comes to me of, in the midst of life we are in death. You have all these images of life around here, and in the midst of life. And then there's also what I often say: everything's always happening at once. At the same time as there are horrible, horrible things happening, there are beautiful, wonderful things happening.
But people don't notice them.
Yeah. But it's all real. The evil doesn't make the good not exist, and the good doesn't make the evil not exist. So here you have a chance to see it all together. All the beautiful ending.
Thank you. Would you like to? I lost what you had said before because I had the camera.
I don't see anything ugly in this. I don't see anything evil in this. I see nothing but beauty.
Well, the minister didn't talk about evil, but he described the kind of these like metal things as being ugly. contrasting with.
I wouldn't say they're ugly. I would say that they're an element. They're part of the urban construct. I wouldn't say they're evil at all. They're objects. They're not evil in themselves. They're only the people that use them for evil intents are evil. I mean, it is what it is. It's mechanical, and I wouldn't say that's.
But no one had actually said it was evil.
He's raising his arms like wings. I mean,
no, he was raising his arms because he was in a position of surrender before he was likely going to be shot. He was lying on the ground. He's wearing ritual religious prayer shawl and material called like tefillin and things. He was under 2 strands of barbed wire were over him. So
when Wes was seeing Akiva, he said he was being Jewish in the wrong place.
Well, there was no right place to be Jewish in terms of the mosaic I'm working on now.
It looks amazing. It looks like it took a lot of effort and hard work into it.
Yeah, it did. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to call the police, please? We have like a infiltrator have just showed up here.
Don't trust him. Don't trust a word that he says. He's part of the undercover group of people that are trying to subvert everything. I love this shawl.
Thanks. Greetings. It is Sunday, November 27th, and I'm here with the current mosaic drawing in progress, Orthodox Jew under barbed wire, wearing a talit prayer shawl in Olkusz, Poland, 1940, and longtime friend and Jewish educator Reiner Waldman Atkins is here. And Reiner, I think you're maybe seeing this for the first time like this at this state of the development of the art. So I don't know what thoughts you might have on it, from any perspective.
Well, first of all, I'm going to ignore what you said about Jewish education only, and talk as an educator and artist, and as a Jewish educator and Jewish artist, and as an artist in general. Right now, I'm working with young people as a bar and bat mitzvah teacher, and I can't help making connections between what I'm teaching them and making art like this. We're talking about the idea that a person should make 100 blessings a day, 100 brachot. And I see a connection between that idea and the process of making art in general, and certainly art like this specifically. Because what you're doing in saying 100 blessings a day is to honor and respect and acknowledge the power of all of our little actions, as well as the response to things that are awesome, like, let's say, a rainbow. But what you're really doing is you're acknowledging the special character of each discovery you make in the process of constructing your day, and thereby constructing your life. When I look at all these objects accumulated here, some of them very beautiful, some of them detritus, that have been, and these both have been combined in one holistic enterprise, it makes me think about how life is constructed. You're trying to memorialize and honor these people who are no longer in this world, many of whom lost their lives through violence and ultimate disrespect. And I feel that the physical process of making this work with all these found objects is reflective of the process of constructing one's life. And certainly when people leave this world, we're really not cognizant of all the details of their life. We see a picture painted with very broad strokes. What you're doing here is something very different. It's really reconstructing the very small details of a life that make a whole. And I think that's admirable.
Thank you, Reiner. Thank you very much. Okay. Sunday, January 8th, my many years long friend and former art studio colleague Cooney Wicked is visiting, seeing the Orthodox Jew. under barbed wire, Olkusz, Poland, 1940, for the first time. And Cease, what do you think? You mentioned something about the where the barbed wire is that I brought back from the British Army anti-Nazi tank.
Yes, I think that that's a really interesting and nice part of this piece. As you did with your other mosaics, you've incorporated physical things that you picked up in Europe at the site of historical sites that had to do with the Holocaust. You've incorporated them into your pieces in the mosaics. This I find very, very sort of sweet and interesting. It reminds me as a Catholic of the reliquaries that have relics of saints. And,
what are reliquaries?
Reliquaries, they have them in the churches, and what they generally are is a container that has something from a saint. Perhaps it has a bone or a fragment of cloth that they wore, something like that, or in really gruesome sort of cases, like when I was in Italy as a child, we went to the church in Siena where we saw the preserved head of St. Catherine of Siena in a reliquary.
My gosh.
That's a relic. However, there's many things that are relics that are not bones and stuff. They are things that simply have significance. And you picked up these pieces of barbed wire. Remind us where.
A town called Newburgh in northeast Scotland, about 10 miles north of Aberdeen.
And they are specific to World War II because...
because the British Army had built these anti-tank, anti-Nazi fortifications along the beach there. So there's all these kind of concrete bunkers and anti-tank things there, and fortifications that have all these bits of rusting metal, barbed wire I picked up, which pretty much fell apart after I got back here. Then had to try to figure out how to inset it into the mosaic. I brought it back intentionally because I knew I'd be working on the mosaic this summer. This metal rod here, also from the anti-tank, anti-Nazi fortifications that the British Army built there. Same time period, 1941. So that's how it ended up. And
the fact that it's under glass and it's been preserved under glass in this piece, even though someone else might have looked at that and just, it's just garbage, it's just some rusted pieces of metal. That adds a special quality to it, the fact that you've got it preserved so carefully under glass, and that's what I was talking about when I said it reminds me of a reliquary. It gives importance and specialness to this piece by incorporating it into your larger piece, for you to keep these tiny pieces and fragments of what is basically history. The fact that they were touched and handled by someone during that time period and put there and left for these 70-some years, I think it makes it's special that you have put these things into the work. And I always like all your work anyway. I think that it's very beautiful. The fact that it's socially significant, I think, is important. I don't think there's enough art these days that is made that has social relevance, and sometimes there's an attitude on the part of the art world to say that any type of art that has a social message that it's some kind of second-rate art. But I, of course, feel differently. I think your work is always very beautiful, and this piece is as successful as the last couple pieces that you did. It's very beautiful. Can I stop talking now?
Thanks a lot, Cease. That was great. You offered a very unique perspective, especially on that reliquary stuff, which I was unfamiliar with. Take two. Rev Rich Lang, pastor, University Temple Methodist Church in the U District, author of a terrific column in Real Change newspaper that aids the Seattle homeless, visiting here on March 26th. Thank you, Reverend. And looking at the Orthodox Jew under barbed wire. And what do you think, Your Grace?
Well, because I know the story, but what I was sharing just a few minutes ago is, on the one hand, it's so discordant to me because I can see it as a blessing, that there's a blessing going forth. I mean, the imageries of the prayer shawl, the positive imageries, the color, and yet I begin to look at his eyes, and his eyes show sorrow and despair. And then, of course, you've told me the story behind the scenes, and this is a prisoner probably about to die. And again, as you expand out, you can there can be some images, especially with the spike of violence. so it's it'll be interesting how people interpret this if they don't know the background to the story, but at the same time, the prisoner's eyes tell a whole story.
That's an interesting thing you mentioned there about how you see his eyes reflecting sadness.
Yeah.
Because as I've understood it, there were some Orthodox Jewish, very observant religious prisoners also facing execution, were at peace with their faith,
right.
And they were able, at least so as I've heard, were at peace with their pending deaths. They would have been reciting the Shema prayer, the Judaism's most kind of like holy prayer. Shema Yisrael Adonai. Never mind. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, which you say before you're going to die or before you're going to be killed. And of course, it's conjecturally guessing. We can't put ourselves in the place and time.
Well, you know, and that just reminds me just what you said. I mean, it's Psalm 44, where the people have been faithful; they've done nothing wrong, but Yahweh has walked away from the covenant, and so the Psalm 44 is an appeal to Yahweh to wake up, to come down, to fix this mess, because we've done nothing wrong.
So, what is the psalm?
Psalm 44.
And which is how long is it?
No, it's not huge. No, it's
what is without saying the whole psalm? What is it saying? And
it's the people are being squashed and oppressed, but they have kept the covenant. They have been faithful. So there's an accusation really against Yahweh that you have not kept the covenant, and so you need
Jewish
to come,
people. You mean?
Yes.
So when you say Yahweh, you're using we don't use this word because we don't say it. But the whole point of my work is interfaith dialogue, as a lot of what you do. Is what you mean by God.
Yeah. And it's there's only a few of those psalms, but it is a profound expression of keeping faith even when you feel that God is not keeping faith. And to me the Holocaust raises all those issues. Where was God? And anyway, so to again to see his eyes, the despair, the perhaps the resignation, and yet still keeping faith. With prayers.
Thanks.
So,
that brings to mind a passage I remember from Elie Wiesel's Night, which I read decades ago. And there, he and other inmates are in this courtyard in one of the concentration camps at Buchenwald or Bergen-Belsen, something like that. And they're watching the execution of some prisoners, one of whom is a boy, and a prisoner standing next to Wiesel, who's himself in his mid or late teens then, says, "Where is God?" And this other inmate says, "There's God," the youngster who's being onto the gallows, being hung. So, thank you, Reverend Rich.
Thank you.
It is Thursday, February 16th, and I am with Reverend Brooke Rollston, a now retired former campus minister at the Covenant House Campus Christian Ministry at the UW. We met in around May 1992 at the University of Washington Hillel when Art Spiegelman was supposed to speak, and we've been friends ever since. And His Grace, as I call him, has followed the creation of the art series over the following 19 years, and I've frequently invited him over to see new works. And he's now seeing the Orthodox Jew under barbed wire, Olkusz, Poland, completed for the first time. He saw it a couple of times earlier when it was either in progress or about the time when the drawing was being created, which was over a year ago.
Yes.
And if you have any thoughts, comments?
Well, the first thing that struck me was one of the things about your art is how it moves from being very deeply serious to being wonderfully whimsical. And but it does that not only in content, it also does that in in just the way spaces occur. So here is this incredibly detailed work over here with a very fine point used, and the tiniest strokes of pen. And then over here, this is largely open space. A person might walk in and say, "Well, you didn't finish this. Come on, get back to work."
Excuse me for chuckling, but
that's all right. No,
that's my response.
I love what that does. I mean, it says here, I have some very specific things for you to see and be engaged by, and here, this is where you get to go to work, viewer. What do you feel when you get to this space?
So let me ask you that. What do you feel when you get to that space? Remember, you're on camera.
Yeah, I'm on camera. Well, actually, what first came to me was possibility.
Possibility?
Possibility. What might be in that space? It's interesting that we're shown folds of fabric here. These lines are folds, but what actually is folded and what's behind this fold right here, we don't know that. We have to supply something if our minds are going to stay engaged in this space here. So it's the possibility of what you might have had in mind, and what my mind says is going on there, but you're leaving it open. You're saying, play or work or dream, and I like, and I thank you for the invitation.
That's most interesting. You're the first person who's seen this in person to address this particular area of the drawing, and thematically question or observe or think about what might be, or what my intentions might have been, or what have you.
Right. Yeah. And then there are hallmarks. There are always birds in your work.
I'm going to.
Here are two.
I'm going to turn this off and then start a new one. So
sure.
It'll be like part 1 and part 2.